I can grab some seats for you. Or you can stand, walk around. It's totally fine. Yeah, no, there's no class in session. Yeah, do as you will, and we'll get started here momentarily. But there will be a chance if you wish to. Anytime, of course, but... Art goes his own way. And I appreciate that in people. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad you put chairs up here so you can see.
Do you know that Anna was a church organist in college?
I did not know that. Okay, we're going to be talking about that in a little bit. Okay, you guys. How are you doing, Habit and Dean? And thank you both for helping us out today. Dean and Habit back there, our trusty team. Okay. And feel free, like during this whole presentation, to walk around. It's all for you. Whatever you like to do, it's all fine. Okay, well, welcome to, I guess, the second annual Organ Encounter. You do it twice, it's a tradition. I enjoy doing this, and thank you for your interest. And today we're going to talk about the pedals, so just a little bit. I'm going to pose a question to you, and all of you watching out there, greetings in TV land. I am born of a certain generation, that's still a thing. The pedals, so you have a look at them here. You don't really get to see them on a Sunday morning. I'm comfortably in my little corner. Why pedals? Why? What do you think? I'm curious. And what's that?
There aren't enough keys.
There aren't enough keys. Well, that's, okay.
To expand the range?
Yeah.
Expand the range? In what way?
For sure. Octaves.
Oh, yeah, like a bass line kind of thing. Oh, yeah, okay, yeah, sure. That's for sure, yeah. Just curious. Just because? That's a fine reason as well. Well, it all started off in the 13th century. That's the first known organ with pedals, and it wasn't nothing like this. They didn't just start off with this model. They were simply little pegs in the floor. Got us in there, Dean? 1 second, let me make sure the sound is okay. Okay, we're back. We're back. Yeah, there was just like a little piston on the floor, a couple of them just for certain notes, and they were literally used for pedal tones. So you hold down a note, this would be in the Renaissance period, of course, and they would just play this polyphony over the top of it. So it's just like to form a foundation, single note, and hence the name pedal, besides just pressing it. What kind of expanded now, didn't it? In the 16th, 17th, 18th centuries, the Germans got a hold of the idea. And so what you have here is I got 2.5 octaves. That could be used for a variety of purposes. I'm going to show you some ideas of what they had in mind, and which I do every Sunday. It's a really interesting instrument, is it not? First off, well, there's no sound. Is this thing on? Not yet. So what you have to look at in the organ is each manual. In this particular organ, there's 3 manuals, and we have the pedal board. Each one's an individual organ. Okay, each one has its own sound bank, and we can also borrow from some of the other manuals and such. So the pedal is not left out of that. In the pedal, we have your standard kind of 8-foot stop. Takes up another octave higher by just putting that. You see if I just push this 8-foot pipe. Imagine, if you will, 4-foot pipe. So we have our own individual sounds here. Then, of course, the one that is probably most known for is the low end. So I'm playing this note here, not moving anywhere. Now I'm an octave lower, but a different timbre as well. That's an octave lower. That's a 16-foot. 32, those are fun. Subwoofer for time. If you ever park next to a car just playing some low rap, it's something around here. But then we get reeds as well. I'll go through this real quickly. Trumpets down the octave, and my favorite, this is just on Easter. Yeah, that's 2 octaves lower.
Okay, seriously, this Easter?
Yeah, it kind of is true. It's obnoxious a little bit. And one thing for those who are piano players, anybody kind of familiar with it? Yeah. Middle C on a pedal board is right here. I'll demonstrate this. Actually, it's over here. What am I doing? That's a middle C. See, it's the same note. So that's how much lower it can go, 2 octaves, without having to modify it with like 8 foot, 4 foot, and 32 foot, as we just heard. What I just did right here, though, but just real quickly, is I borrowed this sound from the Great Manual and brought it down to the pedal. I just simply said, I like this, can I have it here? Yes. And that's what I just did. At the octave, I can also add it, let's take a sound from here. This is called a swell. I'll add that at pitch, you can see, same note, like I'm not even changing, right? I can add an octave higher, same timbre, you know. So you got some tricks like that. So that's how you make a sound. One thing we should talk about a little bit is just technique. How do you play these things? First off, sitting on the bench, which is, I'm just wildly off right now. And let me just show you how it should be. It's different for everybody. We don't have an adjustable bench, so I kind of, we do what we can. Have some boards and things like that. But you want your toes to be comfortably touching just the bottom of those black keys. You shouldn't feel like you're lifting your leg up. That's bad. It'll hurt your back. But just comfortably sitting in front of the black keys, resting comfortably. And as far as how close you are, that's different for everybody. You just want to be able to have enough room to move around. But again, judging, like I just mentioned, about having your toes hanging comfortably, as you can see for me, this is perfect. I'm right in front of the black keys, and I'm not too high, not too short, not too cold, not too hot. It's just like that. Adjustable benches are nice. You get it right where you need to be. So then, it's, of course, I just need to come out and show you this. This is probably the most frequently asked question of all organists. The shoe. You see how tattered mine are? Very common. I could just get some new shoelaces. That's just, I'm lazy. But you need to have a heel. And that allows you to go from the black key to the white key. It's just a matter of physics. In the old days, the Baroque organs, you've probably seen pictures of these old organs if you've been lucky to be in those churches and got a close look. These organs are basically, like I would say, in the wall. You've seen that. The pedal boards are shorter. You can't use your heel. You can't reach it. You simply cannot reach it. So they use all toes back then. This board, this pedal board, or a compass as it's called, is a little curved. You might notice on the end it's a little bit raised up. In the old days, and there's still some flat pedal boards. Some people really swear by that. I like it curved because it just fits your body easier. When you go to the lower end, it can be kind of hard to reach those notes. Well, you see you got a nice little curve here, kind of comes closer to you. So that's very important to have the shoe. Now, what to do with that shoe? Let me just get a sound here. As I mentioned, going between the white, we'll call it white and black keys, with the heel and toe, you just stay in touch with each note. You don't go like this, unless you're nervous, just kind of, you could do a trill if you really want to. That's how you go back and forth. You can do things like slides, such like that. Now, before the heel could be used on a pedal board, you use alternating toes. So you might do something like this. If you want legato, that's really what you have to do. Now I can just go with the heel. Pretty nice. Then there's like substitution. So if you want a legato, that's the thing with organ, is staying legato when you want to. Piano, we have a damper pedal. Nice. We don't do that here. Unless you have really great acoustics in the hall, you need to just literally, if I want to go, it's not legato, but this is. So let's say I want to do this. You see what I just did with this foot. There's a substitution technique. Doing it slowly, G, C, my left foot then goes behind the right foot, holds its place in line while this one moves to the next note. And you can do that all day. Yeah. And so it's all about touch and play real quick. That's basically the technique, real briefly. I played some chords earlier. You can do that with the heel and toe. You can play double stops, easily. So the pedals aren't immune to that, for sure. Then the pedal scale. So in some more modern repertoire, or even like 19th century French repertoire, there's a lot of scales in these organ symphonies, like Vierne and Widor. very physical. But you can play those legato by doing this, again, heel and toe technique. If you use just toes, it's a world of, it's not legato. You want to do that fast, I mean, it's just, but with this, you can go pretty quickly. So again, the heel and toe, it's just the mechanics of it is very important. So, we talked about why the pedal board. What are the uses for it? Why is it here? We hear it all the time. And let me just kind of demystify that a little bit. The hymn. In the hymn, you're literally playing a bass line. You're literally doing so. I'll take like the first hymn we played sang today, For the Beauty of the Earth. Okay? It was like this. So without, with just the hands. If I add the pedal, I leave the pedal off of my left hand, just play the tenor line, just for you. And in that corner over there are our tenors. But then I just play with my feet, but I also have the added benefit of adding a lower sound. So it sounds like this then. You have a little bottom end like that, which is kind of nice, right? We're used to hearing that. Another thing we can do, there's like the pedal solo, the Baroque repertoire, any repertoire, but back then, especially like the toccatas, they like to kind of show off, to be honest, little flourishes, and the organ is kind of known for that. Here's an example, is a Buxtehude, a prelude in C major. But that is not clearly, I think you'll like this one a lot better. Big grand, Baroque organ. Thank you, pedals, for that opportunity. So the pedal solos, and then just motifs. The beauty of that is your main is going to be doing one thing like an orchestra. Your pedals could be like not just the bass line, but maybe the cello part or the double basses. Some of you may know this. This is the part of the prelude from Bach, BW 547. You'll hear this theme kind of come in, so it's like. Here it goes. So you're able to do that. You literally cannot do that with your hand and play the part that Bach gave you. So these motifs is really wonderful for that. Another thing the organ can do is the independence, and really that's the main impetus, I would say, for organ and a full pedal board, is you can do this contrapuntal music, which was very common at the time, Renaissance, or especially Baroque. You can have this independence between your hands and your feet. So a good example of that is a trio sonata. This is a Bach trio sonata, E-flat major. And you'll hear this theme in my right hand. Make sure, yes, that's right. Sorry. In the swell, upper manual, in a different sound, different timbre to differentiate it, and then the pedal. So it's chamber music for one. Here we go. it's a beautiful thing. Yeah, and the organ is magnificent for that. If you listen to any of my postludes especially, you'll hear the idea of the cantus firmus. Do we know that term? You don't have to. It means fixed voice, melody. It's Latin for melody, basically. And that's where there's a toccata, a chorale prelude, the melody of the hymn tune, in this case, will be in the pedal. And this is a tune you know, Praise the Lord, the Almighty. This is by Johann Walter. I'll give you a little bit of that. And here it comes. So there's your, so that's an older example for the Baroque period. That was actually, Johann Walter is Bach's cousin, I believe, and it's already lived in the same period of time. Now here we have a more modern take on that, but the same idea. There's an Easter hymn, Gaudimus Pariter, or Come Ye Faithful, Raise a Strain. This is by James Bierry. And you'll hear the melody of the hymn in the pedal. It goes like so. Very powerful effect. Great. Yeah. It is fun.
How do you have to memorize where your feet go? You're not looking at them.
Yes. Sometimes you do. It's okay to look. It's okay to look. And sometimes it's a good thing if you're, but basically, yeah. I think of it always as like slicing into a pie, but you don't look. That's how I literally think of it. I don't know if that's a weird thing, but it works for me. But just like you just slice it, you know where it's at. You just got to trust yourself. If you don't, it's terrible. You just have to do it. But you're right, though. You just want to be you want to be really completely submerged in the music and not wonder where the next pedal is. Yeah, for sure. Ideally. So building on this idea of a cantus firmus, the idea of melody in the pedal. You can also have higher melodies. There's no need for it to always be low. I mean, the pedals don't need to always be low. They can have higher pitched. And who was at the 11 o'clock service today? Many of you, I know some of you. I played a prelude that demonstrated that perfectly by Jean Leglay, called a Chant de Pas. It's a beautiful piece, yeah, thank you. I love his work. And this piece, it just has this nice floaty melody that really exemplifies peace quite obviously, doesn't it? And let me play just a little bit of that from this morning. So it takes you there. Who can be anxious after that? Yeah. One more example of that. Same idea, it's a melody, but this is a very unusual kind of take on it by Olivier Messiaen. The piece is Banquet Le Celeste. I often play this at Maundy Thursday because the piece is meant to encompass the idea of eternity in the Eucharist. Messiaen was a very devout Catholic, had very mystical ideas, and this music was his base take on that. And so it's, you can call it impressionistic music. This is after the beginning. It's a very slow piece. But you hear the pedal come in some unusual timbres. Wait a minute. 1 second. That's the one thing about being an organist. You got to make sure you know where you're parked. That would have been interesting just then. Here we go. The French are very good at ethereal. Sorry about that. The idea.
So
Yeah.
Mark, what are the 3 pedals in the middle of your?
Very good. Yeah, this pedal on the far right is called a crescendo pedal, which I usually have turned off because it can be deadly. For example, imagine this is what you don't want to do. I'm thinking I'm pushing the volume, and all of a sudden I do this. Hard to come back from that. It's basically the self-destructive button, like in every sci-fi film. Like, why is it there? You really want that? End the film at about the 5-minute mark, you know? So, so that, yeah, and, but very good, Ann. I'm glad you mentioned that. I'll mention some of the other pedals as well. So these 2 pedals here, the left one is the volume, basically, for the grate and the choir bottom angles, and they're connected. So you can hear that. Organs don't usually have that. In the organ, there'll be shutters in front of the pipes, you know. But the swell pedal for the top, you know, that is common in organs, and you'd hope you could have that. So that allows you to have some kind of expression. Here's a good example. The French love doing this. That's a good question. I'm glad you said that. I have it closed now. But I have a trumpet coupled, you know, added to the grate, but because I have the swell shutter closed, you don't really hear it. If I open it, hear the trumpet a little bit, and I put it back down, and it goes away. So it gives you some shading within the timbre, which is a nice effect. So we have those to contend with. And these are just registrations. I can store different registrations of the pedals. These are the full organ tabs, which allows me, which is the same thing as these 10 right here. It allows me to change everything at once. But if my hands are busy, which is often, then you can click one of these to save yourself a little break in the music. A couple of quick things. Then we'll go to some questions. And the time flew, didn't it? It's going. Well, we got some time. That's good. So this, I mentioned in the beginning about the early organs having just a pedal point, just a tab that would just play certain notes they allowed to play over and give you a little bit of a foundation. An example of that, I mean, there's so many examples of that. This is a piece, actually it's based on our last hymn, Slain, Be Now My Vision, by Daniel Pinkham. There's a little bit of a variation on that tune. You can hear the pedal point all the way through. kind of hear the melody of Slane in there. But the pedal just has a nice, kind of a calming effect there. Yeah. And yes, then on the ostinato idea. So as you can see, there's so many things we can do with these pedals. Well, it's just so much easier to do with your feet, but also gives you the advantage of different timbre. It's not just if you're playing on piano, especially, or on a limited organ that doesn't have pedals. The timbre, of let's say your left hand, which would be the pedal line, is limited to what you don't have so many fingers. This allows like a different person, basically, like I mentioned, a cellist or a double bassist playing at the same time. You're like a one-person orchestra, is a way to look at that. The idea of an ostinato, the idea of a repetitive figure in the pedal, is especially useful because you will run out of fingers, if you did it with your hands. This is a real brief, I'll play part of it, a verse set by the French composer Leon Boulmin, 19th century composer. It goes like so. You can see the repetitive figure in my feet. Get the idea. So it's a nice advantage we can have with pedals. Then of course, the fugue. Left the best for last. So this is like really the ultimate expression of contrapuntal music on the organ. Your feet is just mirroring your hands almost in an extent. I did play a fugue today. And since, for those who were at the 11 o'clock service, a little fugue by Mendelssohn, which was the fourth part of his organ sonata in C minor, number 2. It's the closing movement in C major. Because, if you just end on, everyone goes home sad. But, C major and life is good, right? So, isn't that right? Just condensed music into something like that. But this is a good piece of also some little pedal solos and such in there. But the idea of a fugue, who knows what a fugue is? Who can describe a fugue? You don't need to know, but please tell us, Bill. Yeah, what's a fugue?
A fugue is a musical piece in which the voices come in one at a time and the audience leaves 2 at a time.
Wow. That's so wrong. I should have known.
You called on it.
Yeah, it's true. So you have a subject. Just fell for that. So you have a subject. In this case, it's this. Kind of a long one. Then the soprano does it. You hear that. And one more subject. Here it again. Up an octave this time. And finally the pedal. And it goes away from there. But did you hear that? So it's the alto. And then let's call that the tenor. And then it comes in, not at the same pitch, at a fifth higher. So it can harmonize. And that's in the alto. And then it comes in a soprano, an octave higher. And then the pedal. So that's how that works. So that's a really useful thing for the organ. And the thing when you're playing that, you didn't have the articulation also the same kind of phrasing. So if I'm doing this, get a little space. And all legato here. Same thing with the pedal, just space, space, space. and a little legato here. So that's the trick. You have to pretend you're it's like choral music, really. It's SATB. And you need to take care of each line as you're playing them together, not just whatever lines up, but you're thinking up and down, of course, but you're also thinking horizontally, like where the line is going. And you have to have all the articulation there. That really makes it, that's an extra little thing where you hear someone who does that, it's like, oh, that just sounds, I don't know why it sounds so rich and musical, but that's why. That's why. Yeah.
I heard that there are compositions that were written so that the person could sit on one side, the person could sit on the other side reading it upside down, and it made like a fugue. I mean, this was a long time ago.
Yeah.
Like Bach and Beethoven doing it.
Well, there's like a mirror image figure, but they just did that literally.
They did it literally.
I guess if you just sit upside down. I'll have to look that up now. We'll nerd out on that later. Yeah. So I'm going to play a little bit of the ending of this one because it's just awesome. Is that a good enough reason? But you'll hear at the very end of this, the big pedal line. The final reiteration is usually gigantic. There's so many examples. There's Bach. You can go on. There's Mendelssohn. Well, I'll play this, and then any questions you may have, additional questions, and maybe you want to come up and just kind of dabble a little bit. We could do that as well. So let me play the. I'll start from here, a little bit towards the end. Enjoy. Pedal tone. It's fun. I recommend it.
Mark, I have a question.
Start now, though. Yeah.
Making an assumption, does your dominant foot correspond with your dominant hand?
I would say no.
Is it opposite?
It's probably opposite.
Yeah.
And what, are you right-handed?
I'm right-handed. And that's an interesting one, actually. I never thought of it. I actually never thought of it. Because in the beginning, what happens, you cheat, you're like your old lefty. If you're a young organist, at least I wasn't taught by some big name or anything, in the beginning. And so you just use your left foot. You just kind of do this. And especially if I really actually started out one of those Hammond organs, home Hammond organs, not a B3. We had the little one octave, maybe an extra pedal or something. You see those music stores. I don't think they do that anymore. So you really couldn't use 2 feet. So your left foot becomes really good. Then later, I got to use this one too, way over there. And so the battle continues. So yeah, I would say it's a completely different system than your hands. Yeah, that's a good question though.
So it seems like you're playing 3 lines, 3 separate lines. I'm not sure I'm using the right word, but I think
Yeah.
it's 4.
Yeah, well this was 4 just now. Yeah, that was 4. Towards the beginning part at least. Well, actually, it's very consistent, isn't it? Pretty much, this fugue is pretty consistent 4 lines, yeah. Bach does 5 sometimes.
So Bach maybe did 4.
A 4 standard, because you have those 4 entrances, whatever order they decide, like in a fugue, right? Soprano, alto, tenor, bass, a Bach would do 5, his E flat,
5.
because he's Bach,
2 hands and 2 feet and Bach.
You kind of double up, yeah. Add an extra, like maybe a bass 1 part or something, yeah, he's He was Bach. He could do that. Yeah. Yeah.
Could you talk just a bit about the differences in playing the piano keyboard and the organ keyboard?
Oh, yeah, yeah. I would say, the common wisdom is don't play the organ like a piano. That's true in a sense because you need to think of legato, so you don't want to kind of like just do this. But really play the organ like a piano. What I mean by that is you want to have, just over here, you can probably see it better. A good example of that, it's about shaping. If this were a tracker organ, a pipe organ, you could hear more of the how quick I press the key or how slow or fast I release it, and that would create a little bit of like a piano, like a touch sensitivity. But that one piece I played earlier, I'm sure I'll remember it. We'll find out. Okay. But it doesn't matter. Like a toccata, you don't want to be like this. Just like you're typing. You want to have the shaping because it will affect the sound of the music, and it'll be. You hear it. So yeah, it's very similar, but you just don't have the touch sensitivity. You can't, even with a tracker organ that a piano would. But you have to work really hard to make this thing musical, and it's possible.
So what you said at the beginning, you play instead of playing an organ like a piano, you play a piano like an organ? Is that what you said?
Okay, now you're taking us into another place. No, what I'm saying, they're very similar in the sense that you want to approach it with shape, shaping with your arms, but dissimilar because with an organ, you let go of the key, it sounds over. Yeah. Unless you have the acoustics of the room to help you out.
You can't depend on
The damper pedal, and so you could, the damper pedal allows sustain on the piano if you don't know. But if you're playing a chord here, you're doing a Liszt piece, you got to jump over here. Well, boom, and then you got some time as the sound rings out, and you go up here. Well, here, no such luck. You got to figure that thing out. You got to just incorporate it into the music somehow. Yeah.
Mark, there's a phrase, it's a term, right, a standard old phrase in our language.
Yeah.
He pulled out all the stops.
Right. Yeah.
Is that from organs?
Yes, yeah, I would say so. It certainly applies, and it's a good rule not to do. Here. You guys are asking really good questions. They're sophisticated because you think, I want something loud. It's the last hymn, or just like the end of this fugue, for example, or the crescendo. I don't know. Here. You want to see what that sounds like? Okay, here is like a full organ sound. Here I could just, pull a few and help out. This kind of a sound. Now watch what happens if I'll leave the chimes off, okay? That gets silly. This is, I think you understand when you put all these timbres together, it's muddy. But you want to hear how muddy this is? So you can say, experience this once in your life. You got it. Here it comes, people. So I just pull out all the stops. It's loud, but it's also obnoxious. So you get clarity. There's a way to it. There's a whole other topic, but you can build registration up. I'll do this real fast. Just the humble C chord. Octave higher, bolster with this manual. Now I got a little overtone there. Is that a mixture? Still clear. Now we'll support the bass. And maybe a little growl. That's about as loud as you would want to be like at a hymn for sure. You get some clarity. Yeah, hell.
Like in the Saint-Saëns organ symphony,
Yeah.
it's big, but it's not heavy.
Yeah.
You don't pull out all the stops.
Yeah, it's not playing out all
You pull all the stops that you should pull out. And what's interesting is when you can, like at a hymn, I do this a lot. Even there's like a lot of people here, I could do something like this sound, just 3 stops. And that'll carry. That will carry the hymn because it's so clear. Because what do you have? You have the bass foundation pitch, octave higher, with a different timbre as well. And then 2 octaves higher, but also a different timbre, you know. That'd be like having, I don't know, a trombone playing the low one and then adding a trumpet and then maybe a piccolo trumpet. So they all sound a little different, not just about pitch, it's also timbre. And it gives a little full sound, yeah.
Don't you get clashing overtones when you do too much of that?
Yeah, and that as well. Yeah, there's the whole science of that.
Or when you did that third one and you put that on the high?
Yeah. Yeah, and technically that's what a mixture does. So watch, like, on its own, it's not even, it's like tinsel, you know? It's not even about the actual pitch. I mean, it keeps repeating on itself. That's a whole other topic as well. That's the overtones you add on, but that gives a little shimmer. It's about also the natural overtone series. If you play a note on the piano, you're hearing more than just that pitch. You're hearing a whole overtone series. This imitates that, but gives like a natural kind of depth to the sound, because the organ, you can't do it on its own. It's not an acoustic instrument, you know. So.
Mark, what's
Yeah.
the most interesting organ you've ever played?
Oh, it's in Ohio, in Hudson, Ohio. It's near Bowling Wallace Conservatory. It's a small organ, and it's perfectly voiced. And these questions are great. You didn't even know this. But that organ, the way it's voiced, even though it's a smaller instrument, it just fills the room. I mean, you could have like one stop. It'll be like, whoo, it'll be just to the back. And actually, an organ I played at a job I had in a Presbyterian church in Pepper Pike, Ohio, was like that too. It was immaculate. Of course, the room was a really great sound as well. You know, but you could play one 8-foot pitch, and it would just, you could just stay with that. There's others like that. Those are the best organs, when they're really well voiced in a really nice sounding room. Yeah. Any other questions on your mind, perhaps, about pedals or anything? That's fine. I'll tell you what, would anybody just like to come up for the next few minutes and just kind of, you can always do that. I could just have a little go. Of course, you don't have the shoes. It doesn't matter. But,
Go try, please.
come on up.
It's a good thing.
Yeah, and we could just kind of talk about like what it would take to play a few notes. Come on.
Come on,
How about one person?
Do it.
One person.
don't be shy.
You think? What do you think, Ken? I know we're all pulling for you, but I don't want to twist anybody's arm. Anybody? How about? Come on, Ken.
Mary, have you ever played this organ?
Not this organ.
Come on up.
Well,
Okay. Going. Thank you, Ann. Just for the next minute, and we'll just see like how. Absolutely. I understand you did play organ. Oh, thank you. I was wondering when I was going to show up. Oh, cool. Thanks, Al.
One piece you played, it was on a little half sheet. I thought, oh, I could do that. I could actually do that.
Here, it's not going to be here. I know what you're talking about. Yeah, let's do this real quick. So how is that height for you, Ann? So as far as your feet hitting the
I'll be all right.
the bottom of the black keys, we'll just kind of real quickly use you as a, okay, that'll work. Here, I'll get that for you. I know exactly what
You
you're
know
talking
the
about.
one that goes into the,
Ostinato? The ostinato in the pedal?
yeah, I think so.
Yeah, it's right here.
That one,
Number 9, if you would.
Yeah.
Just hit number 9.
number 9.
See, I understand Ann did play organ. I just found that out. The reveal. Okay. Perfect choice.
It'll be terrible. Let's see. Okay.
So I would put
This is the great here, right?
yeah, this is the great, left hand here, and then this part's up on a swell. And they'll be down an octave there with your left hand, you know. And you can just play the pedal line itself. Go and play the pedal line.
Everything.
Go and play the pedal line. I know we're almost out of time here.
Go up here?
Yes.
Okay. See, it's just coordination. Oh, my.
Keep going. Nice. And if you don't have shoes, you can absolutely get away with that. That's happened to me. I've broken my heel in a service. You can absolutely do this. You might have to lower the bench a little bit. And is absolutely just, I'll go home. I'll see you guys later. Nice sight reading, too. It's a very short piece. Nice technique. She's rolling her left foot from the white key to the black and keeping her foot right on those keys as well. That's all good. I'm going to throw something at you now. No, I'm not going to. There is some expression in this piece as well. So as you're playing ostinato, you would put your right foot real quick on the swell pedal and gradually pull it down. But you can't keep your foot there because your right foot's hitting this D. So you have to put it down a little bit, back to the D, down a little more, back to the D, down a little more. There's a lot of coordination in that way as well. Hit us with a major chord there. No. Okay. Nice, Ann. Thank you. And thank you all for coming out. If you ever were interested in the organ in any way or form, just come and see me. You know, we can always talk about it or come up and... I found Dean Wallace on a bench once. It was amusing. Anytime. Thank you all. Have a good day.
You said something about playing things with alternate toes. I think you meant alternate feet, but I was like, what?
Alternate toes, oh yeah.